So we're going to continue talking about Reconstruction. These are just some images of what the Freedmen's Bureau was supposed to do. You see a group of African Americans sending a ticket to this gentleman. That ticket could be numerous things. It could be a ticket that shows who the family members were so they could try to help and reunite. Or it could be a ticket to show what the qualities they have and the skills these African American people have to be able to get a job. So again, this is one of the ways that the Freedmen's Bureau was trying to help African Americans, help them find their relatives or find a job as well. In this political cartoon here, we see the Freedmen's Bureau also establishing a soldier who was trying to resolve disputes between blacks and whites, so trying to protect them as well to a certain extent, right? At the bottom, you see the political cartoon is called the Freedmen's Bureau. So protection of African Americans, which was something that was unheard of before Reconstruction, before the Civil War. During slavery, whites could hurt African Americans with no repercussions as well. And here's another one. The most successful part of the Freedmen's Bureau was education. It did educate about 300,000 African Americans. And you notice this, you see children as well as adults, because adults have never had the opportunity to get educated. And now that they do, they're taking advantage of that. So education was the most successful part of Reconstruction for African Americans. And of course, what African Americans wanted to do was they wanted to learn to read the Bible, and this is why they were getting an education, but also they wanted to be able to climb the social ladder so that they could have better jobs. And once they have better jobs, they could help the African American community, and that included government jobs as well. And then this political cartoon, I like it a lot because it kind of depicts what Reconstruction did and didn't do at the same time. So this political cartoon is split into two. We'll start off with this lady right here. That's Lady Columbia. She's supposed to represent justice in the United States. On the left-hand side, we see Lady Columbia sitting on the throne. And all these people here, they're all Southerners, people who fought and betrayed the United States. So they fought for the South. And in essence, they were betraying the United States of America. One of the major leaders, Robert E. Lee here. Another one, Robert E. Lee. Roger Pryor, a Virginia lawyer and soldier, and then Alexander Stephen, who was vice president as the Confederates. And they're all asking Lady Liberty or Lady Columbia for forgiveness. Please forgive me, allow me to return back to the Union and have my political rights. While in the South, there were people who were against African Americans gaining their political rights. So now Lady Justice, Lady Columbia here, she has a tough decision. So she's wondering, should I forgive these Southerners who betrayed the United States government, in essence, could be charged for treason, but yet at this end, and not only forgive them, but allow them to have their political rights? And yet, on the right-hand side, you see an African-American who lost his leg, and his uniform represents that he is from the Union, so he fought for the North. So she's saying, should I forgive all these people that betrayed the United States and not this African-American men who fought for the Union to stay together and fought to end slavery? And as such, you see the caption at the bottom. Columbia says, should I trust these men, the one on the left, and not this man, the one on the right, the African Americans? Because it was a fight for political rights for African Americans. Should they gain political rights? And some people were against it. And this is why the political cartoon shows that, right? And again, African Americans did gain some political rights, but not enough. Now, in terms of economics, so African Americans are freed. These slaves, 4 million slaves, are free all of a sudden, right? So how are they supposed to provide for themselves? Well, for a while, African Americans kept asking the United States government to allow them to have land that was taken away from the ex-masters and these ex-Confederate political leaders and these ex-Confederate generals as well. So all that land that was taken away from them, African Americans say, hey, give us part of that land and we'll work that land and we'll be able to provide for ourselves. That way, we don't have to rely on the federal government. Well, unfortunately, one of the major drawbacks of Reconstruction was that the federal government never gave African Americans the land that they should have. So what we have here is something called the sharecropper cycle of poverty. And I'll explain what this means. So here, we'll start at number one. A sharecropper is a farmer. He could, for the most part, were African Americans, some poor whites as well, who during Reconstruction, they had nothing. They have no land, nothing. So they go to most likely their ex-slave master, who now becomes his boss, right? And so this African American tells his ex-slave master, who is now his boss, he says, hey, can I can I work your land? I know how to harvest crops like the one behind me, right? Like cotton, or I know how to harvest rice, or I know how to harvest tobacco, right? Whatever the case may be. So this African American or poor white asked the landowner, the ex-master, to allow him to work the crop. And the ex-master says, sure, I'll allow you to do that. However, this individual doesn't have any tools with him, right? He doesn't own that pitchfork. He doesn't have any seed. So on step one, the boss provides him with the seeds and the tools. So now he has the seeds and the tools to start working the land. Of course, it's going to take a while for him to harvest the crops and to be able to sell them and make money. Well, in that time, that African American, that freed man or poor white, also needs clothing and food. That's step number two. So again, he goes to his ex-master or the landowner and he says, hey, I appreciate the tools, I appreciate the seed, but I also need food and I also need clothing. Can you please lend me some? And the ex-slave master, the landowner, is doing this, but he's charging him a loan. It's an interest, right? Okay, well, now the sharecropper has the tools, he has the clothing, he has the food to be able to work the fields. So he goes and he works the fields. In this particular case, again, it's cotton, right? So and this takes months, right? It takes months. So he works the fields. He gets 4 bales of cotton. Now, unfortunately, because of black codes, African Americans were not allowed in the marketplaces, like let's say a farmer's market. So he couldn't go himself and sell the cotton. So what he does is he provides the cotton to the landowner. The landowner goes to the farmer's market and sells the cotton. So he sells the cotton. When he comes back, the landowner tells the sharecropper, hey, you know what? Yeah, I was able to sell your cotton, but unfortunately, it didn't sell as much as it could have. And so after he deducts the money that the sharecropper owes him, the landowner still tells him, and you're still in debt, right? So say for example, the landowner provided him with seed, tools, clothing, and food, and the landowner says, okay, you owe me $100. And by the time he sells the cotton, he only gets $80 in return. So the landowner is still has $20. The sharecropper still owns the landowner's $20. So the second year of the cycle of poverty, we start the cycle all over again. The sharecropper is down $20 already, and he's gonna have to borrow, similar stuff to be able to provide for that. So unfortunately, it was a cycle of poverty that lasted almost 100 years. And because whites were afraid that African Americans would gain economic opportunity and educational opportunity, they passed laws to prevent African Americans from being able to be economically and socially successful. And in my opinion, that is part of the reason that we have racial issues in the United States even today. So we'll stop it at that.